Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k. We're on episode number 3 of 5 of this mini-series where we're talking about the new detachments from the new Necrons Codex. This is of course from a third-party source. I don't have the book in front of me. I can't clarify every single rule. I know in a couple of the previous videos I've got 1 or 2 things wrong, such as the reanimator only now having a 3-inch or not a 12-inch, things like that. But I am still learning as we go, and this is sort of just a first glance video. We'll get into more of the in-depth stuff later on. But as for now, I wanted to give you my opinion on the Annihilation Legion, which is the destroyer-only kind of detachment for Necrons. So let's get into it. So the detachment rule is Annihilation Protocol. So it's Destroyer Cult and Flayed One units in your army get to reroll their charge moves. And if the targeted enemy unit is below half strength, they get a +1 to their charge. I'm not impressed with that one bit. There's many reasons why I'm not impressed with that. I'll start with the good. Let's try and be positive before we get into the negatives. What is it good for? It's good for the Scorpion Destroyers, it's good for your Ophidian Destroyers, your Flayed Ones, your Scorpion Lords. That's what I've really got in terms of the good. It's not so great for the Shooty Destroyers, your Locust Destroyers, Locust Heavy Destroyers, your Hexmark Destroyers. They don't want to get into engagement range, so the charge move is completely pointless for them. That's not for them at all, is it? So only half of your destroyer units are actually going to gain the benefits from this actual detachment, and even the actual detachment roll itself. A rerollable charge roll is okay. It's a little bit of a better way to get them into where they want to go. But the +1 to the charge roll for units below half strength, that's really sad. I mean, take for example a 6-man unit. If you delete 3 models in that unit, they're still left with 3. They're not considered below half strength. I think that should be the rule. It should be like if they're at half strength, then that kind of counts. But that isn't the case. It's below half strength, so you need to get them to 2. Or if you've got 2 unit models, you technically can't get them below half strength. So that +1 to the charge is kind of redundant in some cases. Not only that, if they're below half strength, then they're already going to wipe the unit. The +1 just isn't... It's not that great, guys. It's not that great. And yeah, as I already mentioned, I'm kind of unhappy because out of all the destroyer units, I like the Locust Heavy Destroyers the most. And yeah, they're not really getting a say in this detachment. But let's get into the next part, which is the enhancements. So the 4 enhancements we've got is Soulless Reaper, which is actually okay, to be honest. It's pretty good. So it's destroyer units only. So a destroyer, basically a Scorpion Lord. So if an enemy unit tries to fall back from your Scorpion Lord and his unit, you get to reroll, or you get to roll a d6. On a 3+, they cannot fall back. Simple as that. They can't fall back, which locks them into engagement range. If that's a shooty faction, that's great, because you don't want them falling back and shooting and stuff. Plus you want to get another round of fighting in your opponent's turn especially. So what you would do with this is you would try to multi-charge as many units as you can. Especially if they don't want to be in engagement range. I mean, Scorpion Destroyers, the Scorpion Lord wants to be in engagement range anyway, so that's where they want to be. So they're happy, they're comfortable, even in a dogfight, you know, even in a fight against Berserkers, they still want to have a fight. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, but if you're going up against like some Tau, they want to go, don't they? They want to go. The second one is the Eldritch Nightmare. So this is again for a destroyer unit, destroyer leader. That will be a Scorpion Lord again. Forces, well, I suppose it could be a Locust Lord, but we've already mentioned that. That kind of goes with the Locust Destroyers, which aren't really punching, but yeah. So this is forcing Battle Shock tests for all enemies that are in engagement range of the bearer's unit at the start of the fight phase. Big letdown for me. Not really for me, that one. I mean, Battle Shock, I know it comes up every game. It's not really a thing that we need to look at that in depth. I said it in the previous video, we're not Tyranids, we don't play with, you know, Shadow in the Warp. We're forcing Battle Shocks constantly. That's not really our thing. I wouldn't pay points for an enhancement to do that. And it's only those enemy units with an engagement range. So it's... I mean, okay, it makes them maybe lose OC. It makes them maybe not be able to use stratagems. And they can't do the Desperate Breakout test. So it's... Well, they have to do the Desperate Breakout test. So it's... I'm not that keen on that one either. Number 3, Eternal Madness. So this one is not destroyer restricted. So this could go on anyone. go on an Overlord if you've got an Overlord, but the Overlord isn't realistically going to gain any of the bonuses for the whole detachment, but hey ho. The Bearer's unit gets to fight on death on a 4+. Again, in the previous video I mentioned this with Lichguard. I'm not a fan of the fighting on death abilities. First of all, you've got to have not already fought, and second of all, it's on a 4+, so you've got half a chance of actually doing it. So you need to do it on a larger unit, so it's probably going to be Lichguard or something like that. But smaller units, you're not going to do it. It's just not worth it. A 4+ roll, you might miss it. And the fourth one, Ingrained Superiority. This can go on any character, so again, it's not Destroyer restricted this time. It's a -1 AP on a critical wound. I mean, critical wounds, how often are we getting? I mean, do we have ways of getting critical wounds easy? I mean, we've got reroll. We've got ways, but that's other detachments having rerolls and +1s and, well, not +1s, rerolls, and we just have stuff. Whereas in this detachment, we don't really have ways of, fishing for critical wound rolls. I mean, this one does work at range 2, so this is one of the few that actually does assist with, for example, the Exterminators for a Locust Heavy Destroyer unit. Now, it's not going to stack with things like lethal hits, unfortunately, because if you get your 6s with the lethal hits, your critical hits, that bypasses the wound roll, so therefore you're not going to get the chance to score a critical wound. So it kind of filters down when you've got lethal hits, unfortunately. Now, don't forget as well, the Scorpec Lord is going to be hitting with devastating wounds, or fighting with devastating wounds, so you don't really need any AP there anyway. So that's not really going to help them much. I just think things aren't really... I don't feel like this one's being thought out well enough, in my opinion. I think they could have done a better job here. But that's the enhancements. As for stratagems, they're all locked to destroy units or flayed ones units. So just bear that one in mind as we go through the 6. Masks of Death. It's a -1 to hit our unit. For enemy attacks trying to hit our unit, it's a -1 to hit. Cool. That's, again, destroy units only. That one's okay, I guess. But it's okay. It's okay. 1 CB. Spore of Frailty is a +1 to hit against a target below starting strength and a +1 to wound if they're below half strength. It's just okay. It's just okay. I mean, will I use it? Maybe every now and then I'll pull it out. If I've got CP spare, I'll go, yeah, why not? But it's not one of those that I'm banking on, the one that I've got ready in my hand to say I'm going to use this stratagem every turn. That's not really the one. That's not the one. We've got Murderous Reanimation. So after one of your units either destroys an enemy unit or brings them below half strength, you can use reanimation protocols. That's okay. I mean, it might get you a model back, or it's at least going to get you one to, full wounds potentially, and that's going to mean you're going to be more durable in the fight phase. If you've got more models in the fight phase, you're going to hit back harder in the fight phase. So that one is okay. Again, it's not one of those that I'm waiting for to say, yes, here we go, but it's okay. I mean, a reanimator here in this situation within 3 inches would assist. It's okay. It's okay. Blood-Fueled Cruelty. I believe we saw this one in one of the previews on Warhammer Community. Lets you deal mortal wounds to an enemy unit that made... and then you make a normal move, ending as close as possible. That's after they've fallen back. So enemy unit wants to fall back, you throw the mortal wounds out, and then you do a normal move. Now, unfortunately, a normal move means you cannot go into engagement range. You have to stay 1 inch away from enemy models, so you can't re-lock them into engagement range, into a combat. So all you're doing is getting closer, or maybe moving away, or getting onto an objective. That's all you're really doing. You're not locking them in again. And very similarly with the next one, in fact, which is Insanity's Ire. Lets you make a normal move after an enemy unit shoots or destroys one of your models. Again, you can't use this to lock an enemy unit in engagement range. You're just simply moving. So again, maybe it's onto an objective, maybe it's behind cover, maybe it's to get closer for the next turn to make a charge move, but you're not locking them in. So I think both of those stratagems should have gave the opportunity to lock an enemy unit in, but they don't. And then the final one, which is Pitiless Hunters. This gives you a 6-inch piling and consolidation move, which does allow you to lock in enemy units, because a consolidation move you can actually do it, as well as pilings in fact. So you can swing round. I mean, you already want to go for the multi-charge, but you can start swinging units around. Obviously, you're going base to base as close as you can. But once you've destroyed the unit and you consolidate, that's if there's a unit there or an objective, you're going 6 inches. That one's okay. I would probably consider that one of the better ones out of the 6, because I think movement is key for this detachment. I mean, there's no Veil of Darkness relic, there's no hyper crypts, I forgot what you call it now, hyper phasing thing. They're literally on foot. They are what they are. So, what are my final thoughts on the Annihilation Legion? Well, to be honest, I wasn't expecting too much from this detachment. They let us down in the previous edition with the Destroyer Cult thing in the... Well, I think that was also called the Annihilation Legion, wasn't it? They let us down with that. I thought that was pretty poor. But I think I'm even more let down this edition because, as I've already mentioned, we've already got limited Destroyer units as it is already. We've only got a certain number of them. And half of them are probably shooty. So most of our rules here, Enhancements, Stratagems, Detachment rule, don't apply to the shooty stuff. Most of it is applying to the melee stuff. Getting into engagement range, getting on the charge and fighting and all that jazz. So I feel like they're missing out on half of the actual units in the with the destroyer keyword. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's worse than I thought. The only real play to this detachment is having 6 destroyers, Scorpic destroyers with the Scorpic Lord, probably carrying the Soulless Reaper, and multi-charging stuff. But that's kind of bog standard. Everyone's going to know what you're trying to do. Maybe you've got 2 or 3 lots of them, without obviously having any one Soulless Reaper. But it's just kind of, in my opinion, a little bit boring, a little bit... I want to say mindless, that's not the right word. I mean, it kind of fits with the lore, I suppose, but it just feels very predictable. So you're not going to get far. I mean, it's already not that good anyway, but even against players that don't manage to deal with you, they're going to learn how to deal with you eventually. You've not got tricks up your sleeve. You're not coming off the board and doing things that other detachments can do. I mean, Ophidians could, I suppose. That's the only one. The Ophidians still have their ability, Tunneling Horrors. I mean, the strats as well, the stratagems, they're kind of locked in with the destroyer unit, so you can't even really bed in other units to gain the bonus, because they're not going to gain any bonuses. Whereas all the other detachments, they can at least gain some bonuses or merge, you know, with the Canoptic Court, or the Cryptic Court, Canoptic Court, yeah. You can at least have like a Cryptek leading warriors or leading immortals, so they can merge and become a Cryptek unit. In this detachment, it just doesn't happen. So for me, it's a bit of a thumbs down. That's my overall thoughts. I've not gone too deep, as you know. Put your synergies and all that kind of stuff down below, and if I'm missing anything, also let me know down in the comments down below. Guys, until the next one, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.